in from the future a little bit. As you can see, we got this thing torn down. But if you could, subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video. Really appreciate it. Been really helping out here lately, so just keep it up. So we'll get into this video where you'll see we got the roll cage and get into showing the disassembly on this, which is, I think, a pretty long time lapse. So there you go. All right, welcome back, guys. I know the last couple videos have been fairly boring, but this one ought to be pretty cool. We're gonna go ahead and get the engine and trans pulled back out of it, get this transmission and bell housing detached, get that 400 back on the stand, take it back to my parents, pick up the 455 that we're gonna run in here, bring it back so we can start blowing it apart and get that torque converter off of it. However we need to do so, we'll address that when we get it here. And then however far we have to tear it apart to get the torque converter off, we'll put it back together to where it's more of an engine like so we can set it down in there and mock everything up for our engine mounts so we can get the engine mounts made, get the trans cross member put in and the drive shaft loop, so all that stuff is where it needs to be, and then we can like final weld everything. So let's go ahead and get started and get this thing yanked out. All right, it fought me. Thought I could get it on without removing the head of it. So as you can see, I wasn't thinking. So popped that thing out, bolted it on, and then still wants to play a game getting between those two legs, but it's on, ready to go. So we'll pull the truck around and get this thing loaded up. Got to load it up, so let's head on over and swap engines out. Come here. Yep, say hey to everybody. Yeah, good boy. Good boy. See you later, bub. See you later. And here we are unloading the 455. I didn't film picking it up, but here we are unloading it. Already delivered the other one back to him. So we got this one out and we're ready to get started on it. Okay, he's getting all the stuff part-wise out of the inside, and we're gonna take all the extra parts and find a spot up in my attic for him. So here's the 455 we got it brought back over as you saw in the time lapse. And we gotta get that torque converter off because the engine's like locked up. We don't know why, because it was like, had the air cleaner on it, the hood was on the car, so it's surprising because the car was ran when it parked, so it's probably not seized up too bad. Anyway, there's the trans, and we got the roll cage in. So here's the main hoop, and here's the rest of the back down bars, and then the, the seatbelt harness. All right, as you guys saw in the last clip, we got the 455 unloaded and over here, and got it up front here. And there's one bolt I can't get to on the torque converter, so I'm gonna try a trick and see if I can get in there and get to it. But we ended up hitting up a swap meet here right at the Indianapolis State Fairgrounds, and we got some Bel Air interior garnish molding, both front doors and both rear quarter glass. This stuff ought to clean up super good. So I think I'm gonna eventually clean this stuff up and sell it. since we already have the painted stuff in ours, the chrome might look a little goofy. Anyway, we are using this for the lower steering column. Got it. This old sending unit just came with all this pile of stuff. Obviously, we don't need it. But the crown jewel, don't have it here with me, but Dad's cleaning it up. We got the hood chrome bar that kind of completes the front grille. We finally found that down there, so he's getting it cleaned up. So we're pretty stoked on that. But as for now, I'm gonna try to get this torque converter out, or torque converter off, and then I'll probably call it for today. And then tomorrow, I think we're gonna start getting this thing all blown apart. All right, I know Dad and I are gonna take this thing all apart, but we did pull this valve cover off yesterday, or 2 days ago. And looked really clean inside the head here. This pretty low mileage engine as well. So I might pop both valve covers off, get these brackets out of our way and start soaking the valve train. So that way when we go to pull this thing apart, it's ready for us to do our thing and we don't have to sit around and fight with it. So hit you with another beloved time lapse here, and let's get this stuff, get these brackets off and get the stuff soaking. Bracket out of the way. As you can tell, I went and got some PB Blaster, shot it down all the push rod tubes so it can hopefully run down into the lifter bores and free any of those up, and then see if that helps. I think we got like a mixture of a couple different things in the cylinders to help free those up if that's what's stuck, but regardless it'll be good for lubrication. But it's kind of weird this thing stuck because it sat with you know, the oil pan up to the air cleaner. So we'll see what she does here. I'm gonna try to get this torque converter off and then we'll get back to you and see where we're at from there. Okay, since this thing's locked up, we can't really pull the bottom end out of this thing with it on the cart. I had to sacrifice one of the lugs on the torque converter, but who cares? No one really wants a stock converter out of a Bonneville. So cut the lug off, got it off, and then out of the 6 flywheel bolts, 2 of them, the heads were rounded off, so I cut plus signs in them and used a chisel and knocked the ends off. And then luckily that I also heated them up a little bit, but they ended up freeing up and backing out, so I didn't have to extract them. So I was pretty stoked. So that's where we're at there. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up, and then next we will be ready to start completely blowing this thing apart so we can get it ready for the machine shop. So that should be pretty exciting. All right, we left off when we drained the oil out of it, or I think I showed that, but oil looked nice, no water down in the engine, so that was good. And we're gonna go ahead and start the disassembly process and get this thing blown apart. Time lapse there, we got this thing blown apart, and definitely had some crap down in the cylinders, but definitely doesn't look as bad as we thought. Got some surface rust, but not near as bad as what I thought. But the cam looks pretty good. All the lobes, all the lifters come right out. Everything looks pretty clean, doesn't look sludgy, so that was nice. So we're gonna let her soak just a little bit more and try to get this thing to turn over. The distributor's kind of stuck too, which has got me a little concerned, but I know that can be typical on one that sits as what, that thing's been sitting for over 40 years. So we'll address that when the time comes. We're just kind of letting that stuff soak right now. We'll try to turn this thing over. And if we can't get it broken apart, we may take it to the machine shop as is and let them do it, or we may throw it on the engine stand and blow it the rest of the way apart. I'm not sure yet. But pretty happy we got it all torn down. We'll probably... All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. I think the next video, we're going to get into continue cleaning this up a little bit more. And depending on how we want to go about mocking this up, we may blow the exhaust manifolds off those heads, put the ones on it we're going to use, and maybe just put a couple bolts back on the heads and a couple bolts in the intake, bolt the trans back up, and toss this thing back in it, get engine mounts made. Not really too sure where we're going to go next, or we may be doing the roll cage, which you also saw that we got in this video as well. But that's going to do it. So until the next one, see you guys later.